On this week's episode, the failure of the X-Men, the emotional remembrance of Chernobyl, and E3 2019 is finally here. All this and more as we once again delve into the pop culture cosmos. And we're back with another episode of the Pop Culture Cosmos. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate everyone out there listening to all of our great programs. But it wouldn't be a Pop Culture Cosmos without my good friend. He's our own X-Men. Well, he's our own mutant of Humanica Media. You got to check out everything that's going on today at humanicamedia.com, Humanica Media on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and so much more. It is my good friend. It is Josh Peterson. All set for a big week, my friend.
Yeah, man, it's an exciting week. E3 is here, the best time of the year for nerds like myself, and a lot of good things already going on with Microsoft and Bethesda. Tomorrow we'll see some stuff from Ubisoft and Nintendo and Square, so that should be good, man. A lot of things going on, and can't wait to see what's coming around the bend here.
And we'll keep you updated on both our Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source Facebook pages, plus much of our other social media as well. I know there's a lot of things you're pointing towards too. In fact, we're going to be talking extensively about the press conferences and the information that has already been presented so far when it comes to E3 2019. We're going to go over that here in just a few moments. Plus, also on the back end of the show, I've got some comments about possibly that, let's put it this way. It is one of the best television shows of the year. It's going to go down by a lot of critics because Chernobyl on HBO is something you definitely should go out of your way to see. It is the best show that I have seen on HBO this year. Sorry, Deadwood, sorry, of course, Game of Thrones, but Chernobyl is the best television watching on HBO this year, and I'll tell you why on the back end of the podcast, on the back end of the program. But it is this weekend, a lot of E3 stuff going on. But first, we got to mention the actually disappointing times right now at the box office. X-Men Dark Phoenix, which was once a premier movie franchise. Everybody would be gearing up to go see it. Obviously, with Logan and also X-Men Days of Future Past, you had two very, very strong outings by both of those movies. But now times have fallen really hard on the X-Men as it unfortunately debuted very weakly, well below expectations, and in fact, the worst opening ever for an X-Men movie in the movie franchise at $33 million here in the States, as far as that's concerned. And just truly a disappointing number here domestically. I know worldwide it didn't really do a whole lot better. It just unfortunately just did not go out of its way to endear itself to a lot of people out there. I got to ask you, my friend, when it comes to what's going on with the X-Men, even in a disappointing weekend with The Secret Life of Pets 2 also being disappointing, earning less than half of the original movie's first weekend take. What's going on with the X-Men Dark Phoenix as far as it being a bigger disappointment and basically the franchise putting it on hiatus with Disney and Marvel now having control of the property and it ending on such a horrible note?
Would you say that X-Men Dark Phoenix will not be rising from the ashes of Apocalypse?
No, not this time. There's no Oscar Isaac to save it now. There's no Patrick Stewart. There's no Sir Ian McKellen. There's nobody there to save it now. This movie franchise, as of right now, is done, dead. Just truly an awful performance this weekend at the box office. And again, there was another movie that performed really below expectations and didn't even garner half of what the original did in The Secret Life of Pets 2. And even with that movie being so disappointing in and of itself, the X-Men Dark Phoenix just performed even well below that stature as well.
Yeah, okay, so I got 2 thoughts on this with Dark Phoenix especially. One, like I said before, I think fans have a bad taste in their mouth right after Brett Ratner's go at it. And two, um, I honestly feel like we all know this franchise is ending, right? We know that uh, Disney's going to or Marvel's going to clean slate with the X-Men. So why are people going to go and get attached to these characters, especially since Dark Phoenix or Phoenix has such a bad reputation in the movies, right? So the story of Jean Grey and the Phoenix, it's so expansive and it covers so many, like the comic book arc, that the official comic book arc covers more than 3 issues. There's so much mythology to go over there, and they're not going to be able to do it. So why invest yourself in it? It seems like a very, very pointless movie to go see, especially since the first class was really good. The following entries in that timeline have not been that great.
And it's such a shame too because outside of the domestic box office, didn't perform too badly. Got enough. It kicked in about $100 million worldwide at the box office outside of the domestic returns. And if you would have had a similarly strong domestic marketplace, you would have had something that's been okay, been pretty decent. But with that being said, it just brings down that number even lower for X-Men Dark Phoenix. So it's truly disappointing for now because there is, at least outside of the United States, still kind of like a little bit of a hunger for the X-Men. But unfortunately, that hunger is not going to be satisfied anytime soon because it looks like, from all what we can see, that Disney and Marvel want to put this thing to bed for at least a little while. And I think it's a good move if they do. I don't think that the X-Men are really or truly that marketable this time around at, or at, excuse me, at this point in time. I think at some point down the road, you can refresh the X-Men. You can go ahead and make them a viable entity once again. The same thing that Marvel hopefully will do for the Fantastic Four. And I'm pretty sure you and I know, and both you and I know that at some point they're going to go ahead and refresh all these characters, whether it's the Fantastic Four or whether it's the X-Men, and go ahead and do things right from this point forward, or at least for the most part, do these things right with most of the characters.
Yeah, well, I mean, and look at Marvel has always been good, decent at least at sticking to the source
Yeah, I don't want
material.
to say they're untouchable, and I don't want to say
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
yeah, they're perfect in any
No,
way,
they're
shape, or
they're
form. But
not perfect by any means. I mean, a lot of people. Well, I Iron Man 3 took a long time to grow on me because of just the style that it was in. It was not well received by people. Ant-Man 2, which I did enjoy, but Fox, I think we've discussed this before. Bryan Singer, when he first took on the role of director of X-Men, he had never read an X-Men comic book in his life. We see that more and more. Like, look at the people who made the most recent Hellboy. Like, they had never read the Hellboy comic books. They just saw it as the pop culture icon that it was, and because of that, we will never get a good Hellboy movie. And because of Bryan Singer, Fox, monopolizing that franchise, it took them a long time to get into the rhythm of things, but we had a couple good ones, but it's not. I think they knew that their time with the X-Men was coming to an end, and I don't think that there's a lot of heart put into it.
your thoughts on X-Men: The Last Stand, which is the last movie in this Dark Phoenix type saga?
I don't like it. I don't like watching it. I don't like it's just it. Yeah, okay, so I got a few thoughts on this. James Marsden character Cyclops, right? I didn't like how they made him such a whiny little B word in that movie, and he's not that though. In the comic books, he's the leader of the team. He pushes on even in he's a very tragic character even in the comic books during the Dark Phoenix saga. Like he's a very tragic character, and it seemed like they really just wanted to get him out of the way because they wanted Wolverine to be the lead in that movie, and so I don't think they gave him the character development or really the story arc that he deserved. And then there was the fact that it really did feel there were certain aspects of it that felt like the 90s animated X-Men series, and that kind of bothered me a little bit because X-Men 2 was a very, very dark movie, and then this one felt very campy. Did you get any of those vibes while watching it?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's just the vibes I got from it was this is not going to be a very good movie when I watched that movie originally. And I just wanted to say this because the writer of that movie, X-Men The Last Stand, happens to be the director of X-Men Dark Phoenix. So, as a lot of people are saying out there, and there's a lot of critics and a lot of people in social media that have found this out, the correlation between the two, why would Fox get the individual that helped write one of the worst movies in the saga, in the X-Men saga, to go ahead and be the director of this final version of the X-Men franchise for that company?
It's like when a boat is sinking and they decide to plug the hole with like hammers and nails instead of boards. That's kind of what they're doing here. And that I would not I would not trust the franchise of somebody like that, especially since, there's probably something there where like I want to tell the story right this time, and it's very biased as to what the story should be. But I don't it I wouldn't trust them. Like if somebody made a bad, Marvel, actually, this is a very bad example because Rian Johnson is still making Star Wars movies, but it's just no, no. If a movie does bad and it left a bad taste in people's mouths, you shouldn't have anybody attached to that movie making a movie of similar stuff because you're just asking for history to repeat itself.
And actually, that's what I was going to say as well. It's just, why would you get somebody to go ahead and do the work on the same type of idea that they worked on before and it failed miserably before? Especially when you're putting in what, almost 100 million, $200 million into the project. And you got to also consider as well what I told you here on a previous episode, that they had to reshoot the ending because they found out the ending of Captain Marvel, and that the original ending of X-Men Dark Phoenix was very similar to that ending. And unfortunately that caused even more chaos. So you and I have spoken about this before. When it comes to movies that have all these production issues during the course of time, it very rarely, and I mean very rarely, works out for the benefit of the movie or even the benefit of the audience when you have so many behind the scenes issues like that, or massive reshoots that need to be done. So it's just really disappointing that X-Men is going to go out on this note for at least the time being. And it was very disappointing to hear that. I'm very sad in a way because I really wanted to like the X-Men Phoenix, the X-Men saga over the course of time, but I never really, it never really took hold of me the way I wanted it to, because for every good movie, I would have to wade through one or two or more movies in the X-Men series before I'd really get hooked on one. And as soon as I would get hooked on one, it would just come right off as far as another movie in the mix that wouldn't be anywhere near as good. So it's just disappointing to see where the X-Men saga has gone over the course of 19 years. And if there's anybody out there that's going to be able to go ahead and correct this situation, it is Marvel, it is Disney, and at some point in time, hopefully that they will go ahead and integrate the X-Men into the Marvel Cinematic Universe in a better fashion. I know they're not always perfect when it comes to character development, but even movies such as the Thor movies, you have a much fonder opinion of the Thor movies than I do, but you got to admit the Thor movies are not very well thought of, at least the first two in the pantheon of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And even if that's the case, Thor himself as a character was still very much appreciated, especially when he moved on into the Avengers films, and then later down the line got into a series of Thor films where he was represented himself a lot better in that type of superhero structure. But even in the Avengers movies, he was still very much a appreciated character. So even if Marvel doesn't get it right off the bat, they're still able to go ahead and take the opportunity to tweak it right until they get it fully right as far as the character. And hopefully down the line they'll do the same thing for most of the X-Men out there, save of course Wolverine and Deadpool, which were the few success stories so far in the X-Men universe.
Yeah, I mean, I they've done this. Fox has done this, like right, or even with your example of Thor, writing films to suit the actors. But I mean, while that does work sometimes, I'm not necessarily a huge believer in that concept. But yeah, with Wolverine and Deadpool, like those were spot on, and those were very very good portrayals of the characters. But Fox has always tried to capture that campiness that is X-Men. The comic books, the 90s animated series, like they've always tried to capture some aspect of that. And maybe it's an attempt to sell action figures or t-shirts or whatever it is. And it's not, Marvel is able to make characters, make them good in a story and still be able to market them, and then Fox just doesn't do it. They bulldoze things. And Warner Brothers and DC have the same issue, right? They have their studio heads intervening because every scene needs to sell a toy and yada yada stuff like that. So I don't know, man. Like I wish that the X-Men series were better. The Wolverine, Logan, Deadpool, Deadpool 2, take it or leave it, but those were very very good movies to me. I mean, I it's not ones that I would watch over and over and over again, but I of all the X-Men movies, those are the ones that I could truly stand back and say, that was a pretty good flick. And then I look at the other ones like X-Men, X-Men 2, and then Last Stand, and the origin films and stuff like that, and I could do without them. Like I maybe I don't regret watching them, but they're not ever things that I would recommend people go out and watch, if that makes sense.
And then on top of that, you had the disappointing returns of the number one movie at the box office. And thank you, by the way, to Tom Dwyer, the Big Daddy of the Big Daddy Roadshow. I won the bet. I won the gentleman's dollar. I did say The Secret Life of Pets 2 would win the day at the box office here domestically, but even that even that started out less than half of its predecessor, and that to me is a disappointing number for Illumination, a movie studio, obviously working with Universal, that had turned out some previous big hits, including The Secret Life of Pets, and then obviously the Despicable Me and Minions series. So I ask you, my friend, could this be the start of something really not very good for Illumination? Could people be getting tired of what they're representing as far as what their products out there? Could this be a sign if they bring out another Despicable Me or another Minions that there really is going to be some signs that people are getting tired of what Illumination has to offer?
No, I don't. I just because they're making a Mario movie, right? So that's supposed to be out in 2020 or 2021. I can't remember, but they need to stop. I don't think it's an issue with them as a studio. I think it's the writers need to stop because obviously Minions, Despicable Me was extremely successful for them. So I think they need to stop writing the coattails of that movie and feel free to be more creative. But then again, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because you go into something made by Illumination and you're expecting the Minion type humor. You're expecting the banana and the fart jokes and stuff like that. And it's just that oh, that cripples you, that typecasts you. It's like being an actor and starting out in a superhero movie. It's really hard to break that mold. So they just need to find themselves, be creative, not be afraid to take chances because you wanna sell tickets. Obviously, I didn't even know Secret Life of Pets did well enough to merit a sequel, but at the same time, I don't think that it's hopeless for them because I'm expecting Mario to do pretty well unless we end up with a Sonic the Hedgehog issue. But again, they're kids movies, and I feel like we tend to be very hard on kids movies. And kids movies are it is really really hard to bring people to the movie theaters to see a kids movie because most parents would rather wait until because you have 3 kids, you take them to the movies and you end up paying, that's a $60 trip right there. So most parents, at least the ones that I know, would rather wait until those movies come out on Blu-ray, and then they can pop it on in the living room while they go, work on other things. So the children's movie market in general is just it's a tough one. But what are your thoughts on it?
Well, Secret Life of Pets actually earned close to $900 million the first time around worldwide. So there is some big expectations, and unfortunately, it's not going to come anywhere near that or be anywhere near the type of success. So to me, that would be concerning if I was at Universal, especially with Minions 2 coming out next year, I believe, before the work of Illumination on the Mario movie. So, Minions 2, I think, is something. The Minions 2 is coming out first beforehand. So that would concern me, especially if the Secret Life of Pets 2 is going to have these kind of disappointing returns. Because as I was looking through the numbers for some of the most recent movies in the Illumination folder, you have Despicable Me 2, Despicable Me 3, Despicable Me 1, Despicable Me 2, and Despicable Me 3, and Minions all grossing at or near or over $1 billion apiece. I mean, combined, those movies have garnered over $3 billion. And with that kind of expectation and clout, you start to get a sense that, okay, everything they put out there is going to be successful. So this is the first time they've had some type of adversity here in a little while. So I am very, I'm very interested to see what takes place. And as next year, we're probably going to be talking Minions 2. We're going to say, hey, their last outing in the Secret Life of Pets 2 didn't quite generate the type of enthusiasm they were hoping for. And if that's the case, that could be a big sign that not only people are tired of the Secret Life of Pets, or kids are anyways, also as well, that could be a big sign that, hey, the Despicable Me universe in and of itself could also be something that maybe they want to lean away from before people really get tired of that as well. But next year will be the key. If Minions 2 does not strike on a good note with audiences, that could be really a sign that Illumination Entertainment might need to move into a different direction with all of its original IPs.
Yeah, I'm again, I'm not like an expert on kids movies or anything. I did enjoy Despicable Me, but it they shouldn't let the success of one film limit what they're able to do with their other properties. And it's hard to break out of that mold because you want to make money, right? That's like what most studios want. And I think that's actually like the Achilles heel of most big franchises, that they want to make money. So instead of telling a good story, they're afraid to break out of things and try new things. Again, Rian Johnson tried to do that with Star Wars, and it didn't work very well according to a lot of people. So it's sad to be pigeonholed like that, but again, you never know. But what people don't want to see is Mario with Minions comedy, right? Or I don't know what it is about Secret Life of Pets, but we've had a lot of movies like that in the past, right? We had uh, All Dogs Go to Heaven. There's like a dog version of Oliver Twist, Homeward Bound, things like that. There's been a lot of movies made with pets before, and having their secret life, Paw Patrol, stuff like that. So I think they're trying to cash in on that, but it seems like a lot of these kids movies aren't very well researched. The research comes from marketing and not from what kids actually like. For example, there's a Baby Shark show coming out on Nickelodeon. So that's either going to be a hit or it's going to be a flop. So I don't know, man. I hope that it does. I hope that there's a future for kids movies because it's a lot of it. I have fond memories of going to the movie theaters as a kid, so I hope that other kids experience that as well.
Well, we'll know because the big test comes up in 2 weeks because Toy Story 4 opens in theaters in 2 weeks. So we'll know for sure if there's still a great marketplace for kids' movies because when Toy Story 4 hits theaters, The Secret Life of Pets 2, which started off on a poor note, is going to get hurt even more come 2 weeks from now. But at least it opened up a little bit stronger here domestically than X-Men Dark Phoenix, which is so strange because overall around the world, X-Men Dark Phoenix opened a little bit stronger, but not by a whole lot. But again, both those movies underperformed dramatically over what the studios were expecting for both those movies. It's not a good sign overall. This wasn't a really good weekend for the box office, and unfortunately, things are not going to be looking too good for both those films, as probably A Secret Life of Pets 3 will not ever come to fruition. And as far as X-Men Dark Phoenix goes, the X-Men from the Fox movies for the most part, except for Deadpool and Wolverine. Well, we don't know that for sure, but I'm assuming Deadpool and Wolverine will somehow be left alive, or at least the possibility of that. At least Deadpool, anyways. But for the rest of the X-Men, times are not looking good, because at this point in time, it looks like with the poor outing of X-Men Dark Phoenix here domestically, that Disney and Marvel will put it to rest for at least a little while longer. For at least a little while. What are your thoughts out there on the box office news this weekend, with Secret Life of Pets 2 and X-Men Dark Phoenix both disappointing at the box office? Share us your thoughts. Did you like the movie? Did you like any one of those movies this weekend? Share us your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Well, coming up next, we're going to be talking E3, because there's already many conferences that have concluded. Josh has got a whole lot to say before he heads on over to Los Angeles, before he heads to downtown Los Angeles this week, along with Tony and Jamie and Chad. Those guys are going to be covering E3. But first, he's going to tell us about his thoughts. He's going to share his thoughts on E3 so far to this point, with all the latest news from Xbox, Electronic Arts, and so much more. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald coming right back at you here. So E3 is pretty much well underway with the convention, with the press conferences already come out for many of the different representatives that are there. Sorry, still no Sony or PlayStation that's shown up, but still, there actually even is a little sprinkle of news, which we'll tell you about here in a minute, from the world of PlayStation that we'll talk about. But first, I want to ask you, my friend, we talked a little bit about it before last week, but Google did hit first. They wanted to get ahead of the game, so they announced their $130 Founders Edition, which comes with 3 months of their streaming service, also the controller and the Chromecast Ultra. Do you think at this point in time they'll be a viable contender with their streaming service? They did announce 20 plus games that are coming to the service right away. A lot of big names, including Baldur's Gate 3, which was just announced, plus also many of the many popular titles from a third-party standpoint that are already available. So do you think Google Stadia is a little bit more appealing to you, and do you think it'll be a little bit more appealing to audiences out there as well?
Okay, I've actually been thinking about this a lot today. I honestly I don't think that streaming services are game streaming. I don't think that we have the technologies there yet. You look at it, you have to have a good internet connection to be able to play stuff like this, like a PlayStation Now, Xbox, even Xbox. Well, Xbox Games Pass downloads onto the console. You just have to have an internet connection so they know you're a member. But you look at PlayStation Now and it's pure garbage. So I look at the Google Stadia and yeah, that's awesome. I love streaming, but even watching the E3 conferences on my computer and they're streaming it live, I'm looking at it. I'm running off of 5G, and granted, my network's not that great, but um, it still allows me to stream with you and stuff like that on here. But think about someone who lives out in the Midwest, right, where the internet's not that great. I don't think that the tech is there. But speaking to Google Stadia, I love the idea of $130. Uh, it's cool that they got launch titles, but I'm just curious how many people are interested in this. Like, is it something that you'd want to purchase? Because it's not something I like having a console, and that's just me. But can you play it on a TV? Like, how does this all work? They haven't really shown us much about what the infrastructure of it is, and I would like to know more about that.
Let me ask you a question, Josh. Does it play a Blu-ray?
No, it doesn't, and does it if it doesn't have the Netflix, like, there's not all the apps that you can do on Xbox and PlayStation. It doesn't have all that stuff. It is strictly for video games. It's basically, you know, just using a controller on your phone or whatever it is you're using to play. It's not I don't feel like it's any real threat to the big gaming companies, but then again, it could be. So I don't know, man. It doesn't have all the stuff on it that it doesn't do stuff that a console does, and that bothers me.
No, and that's why I probably won't get it either, no matter how well. I probably won't get it either, at least not at the start, until it shows me that it has games that I want to play that are going to be on no other platform. And if that's the case, and it might have that, I'll be more interested in it. I'm more interested in it. But until that day comes, if it just has the games that are on so many other different platforms, then you know what? Unfortunately, I'm going to go into a different direction, and I'm going to go with a console. So to me, that's right now, and I think a lot of other people as well. It's going to have a slow burn with Google Stadia because of the fact that you can play virtually all these games on another platform that's already made, that's already there, and probably at a lower price, probably at a lower per month price as well, because you're also paying for that. You're probably paying for at least one of the Xbox or PlayStation services. You're probably not going to just go ahead and kick everything off, whether it's Xbox, Nintendo, or PlayStation, and just put all that aside in favor of the Google Stadia because you're not sure how it's going to be. So to me, if you're just doing that for an extra cost to just find it to check it out to see if you want this long term, you know what? Wait a little bit. Wait a little bit and see if the services we're taking right now it isn't for me, and I don't think it will be that right, and I don't think it will be right away for a predominant amount of gamers out there. Electric Arts came up next as far as being on Saturday, and they announced their presentation was all right. They had the usual bevy of highlights coming for the upcoming Madden and FIFA as far as some of the features that are coming out there. Battlefield 5, they talked about DLC, Apex Legends Season 2, DLC for both those, plus other stuff plus other games as well. There's a new Need for Speed on the way and a new Plants vs. Zombies on the way. That's great and all that, but there was nothing made as far as Mass Effect. There was nothing. The only thing we got from BioWare was an apology, so to speak, as far as Anthem is concerned, and that to me was really to put it out there on a public forum. I don't know if that was really good or that was really as far as not, or that was not really a wise move as far as PR is concerned, because that's just telling me you already know that the gamers know that this game was a mistake in happening. And last but not least, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, they finally showed a lot of detailed gameplay from it. But I want to ask you, Josh, in this single player narrative driven game, it kind of looks like to me that instead of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, it looks like Star Wars Jedi Uncharted.
It does, and we discussed this before the show. I feel like these are the gaming assets that from Amy Hennig's canceled Star Wars game. And it's funny you say that because as soon as I saw him running on the walls or even shooting that grappling hook, because that's a mechanic that isn't Uncharted, right? When he tosses the rope up
Uncharted
and the
3.
swing, yeah. And I
Uncharted 4, excuse me. Uncharted 4.
right, and I guarantee you that there's gonna be parts in there where you have to swing to multiple hooks, like Spider-Man, and that's totally an Uncharted thing. But again, it's hard to be mad because this game looks so cool, and I can't wait to play it. It comes out November 15th, I think.
Right around that point in time, yeah, just before the Black Friday. Actually, it comes a little bit before that. Pokemon Sword and Shield comes about a week later, I think, and then Black Friday after that. So it is going to be something I think a lot of people are interested in. I mean, it is a single player narrative, which to me is kind of funny the way that EA has done a total 180 in what we're talking about 2 or 3 years time as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, I mean, because the first Battlefront was not what people were expecting it to be, and
And
now
then the major decision to shut down as far as
yeah,
what Amy Hennig was doing.
they're like, and they're like, we're no, they're trying to market off of their mistakes, and maybe that's what they're doing with Anthem. I didn't watch the whole thing, but yeah, it's funny, and what's cool about this is the first Star Wars game that is officially canon. Did you even realize that? Like, this
Yes.
actually it has Saul Guerrero in it. I'm imagining this takes place slightly before Rogue One, but, yeah, this is the first Star Wars game that is officially canon in the Star Wars universe because everything else was kinda like side stories or something, used for LucasArts to make money and stuff like that, so I'm kind of excited, man. Like, it's got a lot of cinematics in it. I just hope that the campaign is long because that's something that, you know, they gave us like a 3-hour campaign in Battlefront 2, but it still was not a great campaign. And so I'm hoping that this is something that is worth the time and money of star people who are missing those classic Star Wars games like Jedi Academy or Shadows of the Empire or even, you know, The Force Unleashed.
I agree with you. It's just something that is hopeful for us out there, but to see the total 180 that Electronic Arts has done from so recent of times where they had definitively said that they are no longer going to make single player narratives and that they wanted to just go ahead and make microtransaction heavy multiplayer experiences, and to go from that back into a single player narrative driven game is just astonishing to me to see that they would do that. And you know what? I'm not going to complain too much about it. I want to see it before, I want to see it more in detail. It looks okay. It looks pretty good. Again, it still has very, very similar markings to the Uncharted series, which, which both Josh and I have a great fondness for. So I'm very interested to see where this leads as far as the Star Wars canon and also the Star Wars universe is concerned as we get closer and closer to the release date of early November for Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Other than that, like I said before, Electronic Arts, they just basically announced a lot of add-ons, and then of course the sports titles that they bring out every single year with some new tweaks here and there. That's fine. A new Need for Speed that comes out, that's fine. A new Plants versus Zombies, that's fine. But outside of that, the most noteworthy thing was the apology by Anthem. To me, that's a problem when you go ahead and that's all you've got is a new Star Wars game and an apology by Anthem. Did you find that Electronic Arts press conference to be somewhat to be good overall, or do you think it ended leaving you wanting more?
I wouldn't even call it a press conference, really. Like, the Anthem thing was weird to me, and it doesn't apologize, but then say, "Hey, by the way, we've got this Mass Effect remastered trilogy coming out," or, like, even give us a tease of people exploring faraway galaxies, something related to Mass Effect or Dragon Age, right? They got a new Dragon Age coming out. They didn't even talk about it. Instead, they just came out and said, "Sorry," didn't even reference any new DLC, nothing like that for Anthem. So why do it? Why bother? At least with in Bethesda's conference, Todd Howard comes out and he says, "Hey," and he is actually making jokes about what a nightmare Fallout 76 was at launch. And he goes, "By the way, Fallout 76 is free for the next, what is it? The next 14
You're
days."
talking about Bethesda.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I mean, Anthem, though, EA BioWare didn't do anything like that. So you're still like, they didn't give you anything. There's no consolations. All you get is an apology. And what are you going to do with an apology? Nothing.
That's well, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go find another game, and keep on complaining why they don't why they don't deal with it, why they don't announce a new Mass Effect or a Mass Effect trilogy remake, or they're I know they're doing other things as far as that's concerned, and I know they're working on other. I know they're working on a Dragon Age and hopefully another Mass Effect as well at this point in time, but they could have done so much outside of apologizing and telling us and admitting to the world what we already knew, that Anthem is disappointing. And that to me was just something I wouldn't have done as far as a PR standpoint is concerned, because like you said, they didn't promise it, or they didn't give you anything out of it. They didn't give you any incentive to go back into the Anthem universe or actually start it even or start it period, because of the fact, like you said, if I'm going to tell you, hey, I have this game here, I'd really love you to play, but by the way, there's a lot of issues with it, and to start off on a bad note, but I'm not going to incentivize you in any way, shape, or form. I'm not really going to go out of my way to go ahead and play it. So that truly to me was disappointing, that Electronic Arts would go ahead and actually put it out there instead of offering some really great stuff for Anthem to get people back into it and motivate it into their product once again. So
Yeah.
and like we said, we're still disappointed that nothing as far as Mass Effect was announced. So I don't know. For me, it was a miss on Electronic Arts, but still, even with Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, there still is some hope that they can do things right, but we'll have to wait and see what comes to being, what comes to fruition in early November when Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order gets released. That brings us to the one that you wanted to talk about the most, my friend, and that is the Microsoft Xbox conference. Microsoft Xbox announced a lot of things like they usually do. Some of it hit, some of it misses. I was reading the conversations that you had going back and forth with the Monroys in regards to the Xbox conference. So I want to hear what you have to. I want to hear what you have to say when it comes to all the items that you got picked out for the Microsoft Xbox conference.
Okay, so I'll start the obviously what's kind of the biggest thing here is the Project Xbox Scarlet or whatever. I don't know. That's probably not even
Project
the
Scarlet.
Project Scarlet. It's probably not the name of the console, but I mean, he did talk about how that's being worked on right now, and it's supposed to drop holiday 2020. It was a montage of people talking about how we want faster loading times, we want bigger worlds, we don't want
Four
the
times the
game
power of the
4 times
Xbox
the power,
One.
a lot of gigabytes and teranauts or whatever you wanna whatever computer nerd language they're speaking.
A great public relations ploy for AMD.
Yeah, yep, yep, and everyone's talking about 8K, but when honestly, we're not gonna be getting full 8K probably for another 10, 5 to
Can you
10
buy me
years,
an 8K TV now, man?
but hey, yeah, but I mean, there's not a lot of things that are going to output. And here's another thing that bothered me, right? They're talking, we can take things up to 120 frames per second. Remember, PlayStation said that same thing back when the PS3 came out. They're like, we can now show you games 60 frames per second, but nobody developed games that were capable of doing that. So I don't put any stock in frames per second anymore. But so they went on the whole lot of processing power, didn't go into any detail about what the system looks like, what the price points might be. It's going to launch holiday 2020, and Halo Infinite will be a launch title.
And I understand that you were upset about not seeing a lot. There was a simple. There was just a simple. There was just a simple cutscene. I'm finishing the fight. Like we've seen before. That's fine for me because the fact it is coming out holiday 2020, so they're going to show a lot more come E3 this time next year on it.
Right. Okay. So sorry. Here's my thoughts on this. Okay. Like you saw me discussing this with Tony in the thread that we have. I was saying that it's fine. It's fine that it's not going to be launching till 2020. We're going to have a oh shoot, what was I about to say? Okay, it's not going to launch till 2020. It's going to be a launch title. That's what I was going to say. But I still feel like, especially after the bad taste that was left in people's mouths after Halo 5, if 5 years is a long time without an entry in the franchise. So if anything, say, hey, there's a rematch because we still haven't had was Halo Reach has not been remastered. It was attached to the Master Chief Collection. So, do a remaster or a mobile game, like put in something as like some kind of stopgap measure, and tell us what Halo Infinite is. Is it going to be a rebirth like God of War? Is there going to be a progression system? Is there an open world that we can explore? Can we customize our weapons? What is Halo Infinite? Is it just another straight up linear shooter like Halo 5 and everything that came before it? I want to know more. And then, why is Master Chief floating out in space? At the end of Halo 5, he was hanging out with the Arbiter and all the elites. So what is going on? Don't just give us a cutscene like that. Show us some gameplay at least. It makes I love that franchise so much, but I don't have much faith in it anymore. And if Halo Infinite is not good, then I feel like I have the same sentiments that a lot of fans have. But where do you stand on when it's an appropriate time to show gameplay?
I think I think in the same year that the game is released, and this is something I want to talk about in a sec when it comes to Gears 5, but let's hold our conversation on that as far as Gears 5 is concerned. But to me, I want to see gameplay the same year comes out. So I'm not as ardent about that as you are in regards to it because like you said, it's going to be, well, similar to what happened with the original Xbox, it's going to be the launch title for the next Xbox, whatever Project Scarlet is ultimately going to be called in holiday 2020 when it finally releases. So I'm not as concerned that there was no gameplay shown because I know in 2020, and especially at E3 2020, that a lot of gameplay is going to be shown. People are going to be able to try it at some point in time during the summer of 2020. And then, of course, there's going to be an actual full release in holiday 2020, just in time for the new Xbox, whatever it's called, to come out. So to me, I'm not actually that disappointed in it that there was no gameplay released because it wasn't within the same year of time. Gears 5 is where I really have an issue, is because I didn't see enough gameplay, or I didn't see any gameplay. And in fact, they're telling you their whole schedule for how different components of the game are going to be shown off at different points of time at different venues. But the one thing that they were going to show today was Escape, and instead they showed a cutscene of Escape, but didn't actually show the gameplay itself.
Well, they hinted as to what Escape was going to be, right? It's an objective based multiplayer game where you and four friends or whoever it is try to escape from different rooms, but it's not as easy as just running out a door, right? You got to do certain things, open a door, trigger a gas attack or whatever it is.
I want to correct that. I want to say that, okay, yeah, they didn't show it during the thing. They showed the cutscene, but it is available out there by various entities that are playing it already at E3.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know they had Xavier Woods and those two other guys playing it, but they didn't show more of what the game is, right? Like we still don't know, where was JD in the trailer we saw last year? What was Marcus doing? They just showed that all the main characters had suddenly turned on Kate, and now she's going off into the world doing her girl power thing. Like, and that's cool. That's fine. I'm extremely interested in her relation to the Hive, to the the Queen and all that stuff, but what about the other characters? Like, why spend Gears of War developing these other characters if you're just gonna cast them aside and just focus on one character in particular? So I want to know more about the campaign. What's going on in the story? Where are we at? Why is everybody playing nice all of a sudden? Why is there why in the escape mode, why are they showing like the robots with are they infected? Like, how does this all work? What is going on in the Gears world that is pushing the propeller, or pushing the boat that is Gears 5 forward? What's happening? What is this game? They still did not give us enough detail. All they said is Gears 5 will be out in what was it, September 10th, and you can play early with a special edition or Game Pass Ultimate, and it has a Terminator Dark Fate crossover. Which I don't. Did you hear the in the press conference when they popped that up on the screen? There's like three people clapping. It's not
The
a
groans could be heard.
yeah, not a good. It's just not a good franchise to be associated with.
I
But
just didn't see. I just didn't get a chance, like you said, to see more of the story and what's going to develop there, because now was the perfect opportunity, instead of just showing the escape mode, showing more about what the story was all about. Instead of just, like you said, we saw one brief trailer beforehand with her, with one of the leads of Gears, with one of the leads in Gears 5, actually morphing out different heads of people that are involved from the past or the present of what's happening in Gears 5, and not actually real development of what's going on in the story and how important it could be. I mean, a lot of people want to go ahead and see what the campaign is all about and dive into that first and foremost, because what the gameplay was as far as the campaign is concerned is what hooked many people on the Gears of War franchise in the first place.
right, and they like if you notice with the Xbox conference, a big thing was 4-player local co-op, right? And Gears 3 did that. Judgment had it. I don't think Gears 4 had 4-player co-op. I don't remember, but we what did the co-op mechanics look like? Can we play with 4 players, or is the story, because it's so focused on 2 people, do we only get 2-player co-op? What is this game, man? Show me more. Show me what's up. I don't really A lot of people don't play Gears for multiplayer. Like I spent a couple of months in Gears 2 multiplayer back, way back in the day, and it's not impressive by any means. Hordes is fun, but I don't think people go to Gears of War to play multiplayer. I'm pretty sure it's the campaign that they're after. But are you more into the campaign or the multiplayer? What is your gear style?
At this point in time, I'm more into what the campaign is all about. To me, it's the story. I mean, at the first part of it, I was both, even though the Gears of the War campaign really didn't have a very strong narrative. I mean, there were some issues, especially with Gears 2 and Gears 3, as far as the narrative is concerned. There were some lapses into it, and there were some plot holes, but I still went through it. But unfortunately, but fortunately for me, Gears of War, especially the original, I would play nonstop for many months in regards to it, especially with the crew that I had back at the old game stores where I used to run. So we would close the store at night. We'd head on home, and we'd all go in, we'd all go into a Gears death match, go into a Gears death match 2-on-2 all night long. So to me, that was what I was really interested in. Actually, excuse me, Gears 2, 4 and 4 all night long. So all night long. So that to me, that was part of the whole Gears experience. You're right. When they created the Horde mode, that changed everything for the video game industry, and everybody did it. But that I tuned out on that right away, and I just focused on the campaign. So at this point in time, with when it comes to Gears of War, I'm more interested in what the game storyline and the narrative is all about. And I really didn't get much of that when it concerns what happened and what was announced at E3. And that to me is a problem because the game is coming out in a rather short period of time.
Yeah, so according to the guy up on stage, I can't remember what his name is. Gamescom is where we're going to see more.
Rod Ferguson of the
Yeah,
coalition.
is where we're going to see more things regarding Gears 5. And I'm actually thinking that, GamesCon is eventually going to become the new E3, but that's another conversation for another time. Uh, but yeah, I think we need more details on this game, especially since it's coming out so soon. You can't be expectant of a franchise to ride just on the franchise itself, because if this game is bad, then it's probably not going to be played by a lot of people. So I am hopeful that we'll see some stuff come Gamescom, but who knows? Like right now, I'm going to buy it just because it's a Gears game, and I got continuity obsession. So, but if I were a casual fan, then it's probably not something I would be too interested in hopping on.
Well, what are some of the other things on your list when it comes to the Xbox conference that stood out for you or didn't stand out for you as far as it's concerned? Some of the good and some of the bad, or what are some of the things on your list that you really want to talk about when it comes to the Xbox conference?
Okay, so I'm just gonna go over my highlights here. Okay, I got Double Fine joining Xbox Studios. That's cool. They haven't really made a lot of huge games. Psychonauts 2 is still coming out. The guy in charge of them, he made some funny jokes that sounded kind of
Tim
scripted.
Schafer.
Yeah, Tim Schafer. I still want to know a lot about the Xbox streaming, right? Their cloud service. How does it work? Because they said you can use your Xbox as a server, and you can play on your phone or tablet or whatever you're playing on. But how does it really work though? Like, do you have to have the app? How much data does it require? What does any of this mean? Like what can we play? Can we only play? Can we play games if we have a disc running in our Xbox? Can we turn it on and play through that, or do we have to have Games Pass to access this? How is this all going to work? So that's a big question that I have.
One thing I want to ask you when it comes to the Game Pass, because they
Yeah.
also announced a PC Game Pass and then also as well a PC Xbox Game Pass overall in the Ultimate Game Pass. Is there going to be too much confusion in the marketplace that will confuse consumers and gamers alike?
Well, it depends, because are these games cross platform, right? Because they showed this big Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition trailer, but they weren't clear on, is it coming out for consoles or is it just PC, because they advertised it as a Games Pass thing, right? Or well, not a Games Pass thing, but they're saying they advertised it in the midst of all these Xbox One announcements. So is it on consoles or is it just for PC? And then you have the Games Pass Ultimate, which means you can get access to PC and Xbox and something else I don't remember, but do your saves carry over? Do you have to save it into the cloud? How does it all work? And they have the Master Chief Collection is being released on the PC Games Pass, but it's also on Steam. So it seems like they're doing PC. That's awesome that they're doing that, but is there going to be anything different about the PC version than there is on the Xbox? Like, are there going to be PC games exclusive to the PC Microsoft Games Pass? Do our achievements carry over? Is because remember with when they're doing the Microsoft thing originally with Halo 2, like your achievements carried over onto your Xbox profile. They didn't talk about how a lot of this will work. So I think that we're just going to find it when it gets released and kind of just be like, okay, well, that's how that works. Do you have any interest in trying that out?
I don't because to me it's too messy, and unfortunately, I don't devote that much. I don't devote enough time to being able to go ahead and worry about PC gaming versus Xbox gaming. If I like a game, I'm just going to play it and and go from there. I mean, I got Xbox Live, Xbox Game Pass. I really don't commit enough time in order to go ahead and be able to take full advantage of it. I go for Xbox Live for the free games. I really like that, and also as well the occasional times I go ahead and play multiplayer still. To me, that's effective enough, and I deal with that. But to get into the all the Game Pass options that are out there, I think that's going to be too much for the marketplace to handle, and I think they should have made it clear and more concise.
Yeah, yeah, and I would love to, like, again, I would love to play Age of Empires on console. Like, that would be really cool. So I would just hope that whatever is released on the PC version is also released on the console version, because without that, what is the point of having this feature that works on both PC and Xbox? Okay, other highlights we have, Fantasy Star 2, if you're into that, free to play, spring 2020 on Xbox One. Tales of Arise, the Xbox versions have been notoriously bad, so will this one be better? Have you ever been into the Tales series at all? Tales of Vesperia, Tales of
No, no, I
Olden.
know it's very popular. I spoke to people about it at length before. It's something I've never really gotten too much into, but I know a lot of people have a special fondness for the Tales series.
Okay, Elden Ring, the George R. R. Martin, Hidetaka Miyazaki crossover, the guy that did Dark Souls. All we got was a cinematic. There's no. It looks like it's got a Lord of the Rings esque type story, but what is the game? Is it a third person? It's they did one of those only cinematic type things, and they didn't talk about a release date, didn't talk about gameplay. It was just a video, if you can even call it a video, because a lot of it had stills in it. So um I don't right now, I don't really trust things that George R. R. Martin does, because they never come out, and when they do, they're not that great. So, um, and then Dark Souls. I don't know where you stand on Dark Souls. I loved Dark Souls, but oh my gosh, that is the most frustrating game I have ever played in my life. And I know it's notoriously frustrating. There's a lot of people going on Twitter and streaming it just because people like to watch people get killed in that game. I don't if take George R. R. Martin and Dark Souls, it sounds fun, but it sounds like it's going to be the biggest headache in the world. Do you have any interest in playing this one? Were you able to catch any of it?
It is a very difficult game. I've tried to delve into it, and it's one of those games you have to have a lot of patience for and a lot of time to go ahead, because it is a game of trial and error, and it is a game it's a game that developer really went out of its way to enjoy punishing you. And I know that a lot of the influence was games of old that supposedly did the same thing, but I had not experienced any game that had truly punished you punished you as much as the Dark Souls series. So I don't know, man. It's up to you, but I'm not willing to go ahead and invest my time into dying again and again and again without getting anywhere or progressing enough into the game to feel like I was getting rewarded for something.
Yeah, and at least it's not like Sekiro, right? Where you don't in Dark Souls, you can go back, and each time you die, you still get progression points, right? So you can still tweak your character. But in Sekiro, you Shadows Die Twice, you don't get anything. So there's a weird obsession with these types of games, and I don't understand it, because I don't tell anyone except the people listening to the show that I occasionally like to play games on easy. Um, okay, next we got Battletoads. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. Remember this, the Dragon Ball Z RPG that was unannounced. I'm kind of excited about this. Looks good. Will there be a progression system, or will it just be another fighting game with an exploration mode? We don't know. More because Mortal Kombat had the Bloody Palace mode on there, which it feels like this is kind of reminiscent of that. Going down the list here, Microsoft Flight Simulator looks beautiful. It's the first flight simulator game on consoles. So yeah, how are you feeling about this?
It's promising, and I could really get into it, but we'll have to wait and see how it progresses overall as a game, and if it's something that a lot of people are going to get behind. And if that's the case, I'll probably get behind it too.
Yeah, I mean the tech demo they showed at their conference looked really cool. Outer Worlds, like not a lot given about that. Like they again, we already knew that it's kind of a play your own style type game. Release date of October 25th. Okay, this one really interests me. Bleeding Edge. Do you get a chance to check out that trailer? I don't care. I don't care. I love Ninja Theory, and I was expecting something more from them, but this reminds me too much of Battleborn, and we all saw how badly Battleborn tanked. So, as the box office numbers guy, how do you think this game is going to do?
If it doesn't have that type of good buzz going into it, it's not going to do well because as you and I both know, when it comes to the video game world, if gamers do not have a good buzz into it before the game gets released, that game is going to be sent to die rather quickly. I think Xbox has learned that, or hopefully had learned that from Crackdown 3 that just came out to a horrible reception, and that died a horrible death really quickly. So we'll have to wait and see. But your Bleeding Edge is something that I'm seeing right now is not getting a whole lot of love out there. But you know what? It's early, so there could be more good news on the way for it if that's the case. So I don't want to hold out a yes, it's going to be something that's great, or no, it's going to be something that bad until we see more coming out for Bleeding Edge.
Yeah, and let me let me close this, put a bow on this game real quick with one last question. How do you feel when you get so used to a studio making a certain style game and then they go off and try to make something that's completely outside of their box? Do you trust it immediately or are you weary about it?
I've been gaming so long that I don't trust any developer to do anything. Even if the most trusted developer that I have at this point is Naughty Dog, and they went off into a different direction after The Last of Us 2, I'm still going to be I'm still going to be very nervous about if I want to go ahead and invest my time in it until I see an extensive amount of footage first, if it's something that will appeal to me. But no, I'm not going to go on blind faith anymore when it comes to gaming. I mean, there's been so much disappointment over the course of my lifetime from respected individual developers and publishers out there that I've trusted for years that have let me down time and time again. Now, still, I mean, the case in point with BioWare. BioWare succeeded with us for so many years and finally let us down. Every development studio or publisher has that point in time where they're going to go ahead and not put out something that fans are going to love. And it just, and it's how they deal with it and how they move on is going to be if they can go ahead and regain the fans' trust. But I have no more blind faith in any developer or publisher at this point in time, including Naughty Dog or including some of the others that I've loved for so many years, because I've seen it before, and most recently with BioWare, that you can't fully put 100% stock into everything a developer puts out there.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You can't, you don't can't trust them fully because we don't know, especially when like a company like Ninja Theory, right, gets picked up by a Microsoft. You don't know like where are there pressure for money. We got to make something on quarter one, quarter two, quarter three, whatever it might be. Um, okay, next we got Ori and the Will of the Wisp, February 11th, 2020 release date. What I love about a lot of these games is that they're releasing simultaneously alongside Games Pass. So that's cool. So I do want to talk to you about this next one though, Minecraft Dungeons. Did you get a chance to catch that trailer?
Yes, it was kind of like a top-down type deal
Right.
that had some influences from Gauntlet. I think was probably the best
Yes,
thing I can
yes,
say. Yes.
that's what I was thinking when I was watching that.
But for me, I have to play that with co-op with a lot of other people to have it truly be a fun experience for me. I don't want to do that alone.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And then that's what Gauntlet was so fun, right? Gauntlet Legacy on the original Xbox. You had your friends come over, you played it. Um, you got game over. It's not
Well,
one of those
no, the
mobile
actual
game.
original arcade Gauntlet.
Oh,
That's where it was
oh.
fun. You line up your quarters, all four of you get together. There you go.
But this is cool to me because like these dungeon crawlers, like, these are the gaming experience that I had as a kid, and obviously you had as a kid at the arcades. This is something that we have a generation of gamers who can't really invest themselves in, or it's not cool to be into magic and sorcery type games. That's what nerds do, and it's cool that this is opening up the door for them because this is a Minecraft game, which kids obviously still love. 10 years of Minecraft, right? But I'm curious about what the mechanics are gonna end up being, right? Will there be building modes? Can you design your own characters, design your own weapons? Can you interact with the environment? Those are all really big questions, but the game itself does look very cool. Okay, Borderlands 3, they put out a new DLC, Commander Lilith and the Fight for Sanctuary. It's free.
That's for actually Borderlands 2. Let's
Borderlands
correct
2,
that.
yeah, it's supposed to bridge the gap between 2 and 3, and you can play today. It's free right now, you can download it. It's supposed to have 5 new areas, a few new bosses. It's supposed to be a pretty chunky, DLC, and I'm curious if that was originally, like, part of 3 and they chopped it off to make it free DLC to give on 2, but okay, last 2 here. I got Blair Witch, looks interesting. My question to you is this, it releases on August 30th. Can a game like this succeed using the name of a mediocre movie franchise? Because the game itself looks cool, right? It's got that Life is Strange vibe to it, or the Vanishing of Ethan Carter. But can a game like this succeed, in your opinion, using the name of a movie franchise that has not done so well?
Had this movie come out in the year 2000, off the success of the original Blair Witch Project, I would have said this game I would have said this game would have been a massive hit. Coming out almost 20 years later, in fact, coming out 20 years later after the movie came out, I have no hope for it, and I don't understand why it's even being associated or tagged with Blair Witch in the first place, especially, like you said, after the Blair Witch Project 2 was one of the most disappointing sequels of the past 20 years. And the fact that monetarily and critical wise, it truly it kept audiences away, and it did a horrible job of trying to go ahead and protect or even enhance that Blair Witch legacy, which was pretty much dead on arrival by the time the Blair Witch Project 2 came out. So that is pretty much a dormant franchise for me. So to me, it's like, I don't care. It's Blair Witch. Blair Witch should have a game like that should have come out 20 years ago. To me, it's 20 years too late.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I mean, this game, because you look at the trailer for this game, and can think to yourself, like, you can look at it and be like, this doesn't need to be associated with Blair Witch. Like, if it is called the troubled disappearance of Gerald Glassford, like, it could be a genuine, it could be a genuinely great game if it existed without the name of that. So, it just makes me wonder how many other great movie tie-ins are there that don't need to be movie tie-ins but go completely under the radar because of the movie they're associated with. It's just an interesting thing, and I was very surprised to see Blair Witch attached to this because what are movie oriented games notorious for?
All right, and then and I know the conferences as far as, but overall, your thoughts on the Xbox conference before we add in a couple little tidbits that were noted as well. Excuse me. I want to hear your thoughts on the Xbox conference overall before I go ahead into some final tidbits about some other developers, and then two games which have really come about as far as news on that they're appearing for people in the West, and then one that's appearing in the West, and then also one that is finally getting an announced date, and it came out a surprise, came almost out of nowhere, but it really gets a lot of people excited as well.
Are we talking about Cyberpunk?
No, oh, actually, I'm sorry, that's three. Okay, and let me rephrase that. Okay, I'm scratching that. Okay. And there was one major game also as well that was shown off at the Xbox conference, starring a current star from a current movie that a lot of people enjoyed that came out of nowhere. So tell me, man, your thoughts on Cyberpunk 2077.
It looks good. It looks very gruesome. Just looking at the trailer today, like, it looks very, very bloody. And I know The Witcher was like that too, but like, this looks this looks like the dystopian future, like the way that it could actually be, you know, something like Altered Carbon. All the places that Deus Ex didn't want to go, it looks like Cyberpunk is going to do this. Keanu Reeves is a character. They had him come out on stage, and it's funny. You could tell that he's not used to like speaking to a whole a whole theater full of people. And I love when he goes, "This game is breathtaking," and then someone in the audience goes, "You're breathtaking." It was it was cute. You know, I can't think of a better word for it. Like it had some charm to it. Like he seems like a good dude. Like you would want to go out and, you know, have a beer with this guy. Like he seems like a good dude.
And that's great for CD Projekt Red to get that kind of hype going, because it did come out of left field as a surprise. So I want to hear your thoughts. But that game's coming out. But that game's not coming out till next year. So we still have a little while to go ahead and speculate on what's going to go on with that game. Your thoughts finally on the Xbox conference overall before we head on to some other little tidbits I want to go ahead and share with that came out this weekend, and other little tidbits I want to share that came out this weekend. So your thoughts on the Microsoft Xbox conference.
It was overwhelming and then underwhelming and then just whelming enough, I guess. There you can tell they're focused on the next generation of consoles because you know we're getting um, more indie games, and then there was no Forza entry this year except for the Horizon DLC that comes out in June. So you can tell they're really gearing up for the next generation of consoles, but I'm still not seeing anything as far as you know, new IPs go that is going to be the next Halo or where was Fable, right? That's what we all wanted to see was a new Fable announcement. Where's like there's nothing that's like a flagship franchise that I'm noticing in this whole, you know, list of games that came out. So it was okay. It was just not the conference that I was expecting because they had a really great chance here to come out on top. But you know, with the next console launching in 2020, I imagine that next year's E3 showing is going to be quite the ordeal.
Yeah, so this seemed like a setup for next year.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, if you as you did you watch the whole conference?
Yes, I did.
Okay, how did you feel about it? How in your eyes, how was the energy? Phil Spencer, did you think he wasn't on stage as much this year, but how do you feel about it as a whole, like the structure?
This was a setup for next year. Simple as that. I
Yeah.
was disappointed what was shown off to Gears 5. As I mentioned before, there was some stuff shown for Gears 5, but it wasn't very much. To me, Gears 5 should have been the focal point of what you were trying to offer. Yes, there was a big presentation live as far as it's concerned, but the gameplay, again, we had to go ahead and search outside of that to see any gameplay, but the gameplay wasn't shown very much during or at all during the course of the actual event. So to me, that was kind of disappointing. If your big release this year doesn't get the shine that I think is necessary, and that you're more concerned about other things and other titles, and also the Project Scarlet and Halo, than your own actual Gears franchise, which is supposed to be your other tentpole franchise, I just didn't think they gave enough love to it. And to sell games and consoles this year, you need to give that game as much love as you can handle. And yes, that's great that they're going to go ahead and be at different places and different venues over the course of the summer. But E3 is the vital point still as far as the premier event to showcase. I mean, a lot of people all around the world are going to be talking about it, about what they did at E3 as opposed to even Gamescom or anywhere else. And to me, that was disappointing that they didn't show off enough love for Gears. And at this point, to me, the whole thing, the whole Xbox conference felt like a setup for Project Scarlet and whatever that's going to become, and Halo Infinite and what that's going to become during holiday 2020. And you're right, we're going to see a lot more of that and a bunch more of the titles that are going to be coming up for the initial Project Scarlet when it comes about this in holiday 2020. We're going to see a lot more of that for E3 next year. So E3 next year for Xbox is going to be great. For now, it just seemed like status quo. And to me, status quo is not good enough. Some of the things that I want to talk to you about before we head to the break, I want to talk to you about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. the release window, the release date, it was actually sent out. The word of it actually was sent out tonight during or earlier this evening during a concert. Didn't you find that surprising that the March release date for the Final Fantasy VII remake came out at a venue like this?
Yeah, especially before their I mean, they did that last year, right? With Rise was the last Tomb Raider game. Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Yeah, they did that last year with Shadow of the Tomb Raider. They released the trailer a week before E3. So it's just weird, especially since their press conference is tomorrow, that they're making they cut a minute 30 trailer for Final Fantasy VII the remake, and they gave you the release date of March 30th, 2020. Um, but they still haven't revealed some of the biggest aspects of the game, right? Like how is the you have it's no longer an active battle system, which is cool. How does the character swapping work in certain places, because they showed him playing as Barrett, and I think he played as Tifa a couple times in the trailer. But how does the open world aspect work? Has show us the Aeons? Like how does what's going on? Like there's so many things that are still so mysterious about this game, and they have not revealed any of it yet. They're showing us a release date, and I'm stoked to play it because obviously I'm a huge Final Fantasy nerd. But um, it's weird that they would announce it at a symphony instead of their press conference tomorrow, because especially since last year their press conference was so lackluster.
And I think, and also a lot of people got excited for Fantasy Star Online 2, which is finally getting localized and is coming out to the West. As someone who is a games aficionado, does this interest you at all? Or are you surprised that after so many years, it is finally coming out to the West? And will anyone actually care? I think they will. I think there's still a lot of interest for it and a nostalgia for it. But I want to hear your thoughts on Fantasy Star Online 2 finally coming to the West.
It 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 is the RPG that never ends. It's one of those games, I've seen footage of it online and heard people talk about in forums. It never ends. There's a constant support thing, and you can actually there's people generate their own quests in this game, so you can play it forever. It's like Eve Online. You can go out they have enough space in Eve to go and travel forever, and you can play this game your entire life. With Fantasy Star 2, is it I mean, my question would be, it's cool, and I'm probably not gonna play it because I just don't have time to play those kind of games anymore, but is it something, because it's already so old, right? It's already been out for so long. Is it going to be something people wanna play, especially with games like Elder Scrolls Online or Final Fantasy, 14, or, whatever Blizzard's cooking up with their World of Warcraft, or their Warcraft franchise? Is it going to be something that people want to play an old RPG, especially since this one's been around for so long and it's so big? Is it going to be overwhelming to play if you're a new person? And despite it being playable on consoles, remember, World of Warcraft suffered from this, Final Fantasy 11 suffered from this type of thing. uh it's just there's not is there any good starting points for something like this? I'm not going to play it, but as someone who's been in the biz for a while, is it something that you would be interested in?
I'm interested, but again, do I have the commitment and time? I'm not sure if I do, but I am interested to see a lot of gameplay from it and how it has translate and how it translates to West, and especially how it translates to Western audiences, especially younger audiences. I would love to see if a game like that is a little bit older can still translate well to a younger audience. So I'm going to be checking out the YouTube and Twitch channels just to see if it does still translate to a younger audience. I'm in younger audience, so I'm very interested to see if that will work or not. But there was, like I said, overall it was a okay weekend for E3 2019. Not the greatest, and I think a lot of these companies again are preparing for whatever the Project Scarlet becomes, and also whatever the PlayStation 5 ultimately becomes. In fact, Devolver Digital was the last of the conferences that came out this weekend, and there was still not a lot of that they and there still wasn't much that they produced out there that was very interesting or very, I guess, involving. In fact, the most interesting aspect of their conference was was the release of, or was the video, or was the trailer for a lot of the ripoffs of their games. So when you have a company that's interested in showing off ripoffs of their own games, that tells you that everybody is gearing up for basically E3 2020 and beyond, because the new systems will be out there that are going to get developers and publishers really back in the groove again when it comes to the video game marketplace. What are your thoughts on the conferences that took place this weekend at E3? We'd love to hear your thoughts. PopCultureCosmos at yahoo.com. Also, as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanica Media, and Game Source on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. And stay tuned to our social media on Facebook. In fact, Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source will be feeding you information on the conferences and what's going on. As Square Enix, as Nintendo, they also go ahead and have their conferences and share news on what's coming up. Plus, check out our coverage of E3 all week long, and including, we're going to have some more podcasts, hopefully, that we can get together and talk more about what's going on at E3 this week. And of course, a wrap up later on this week on the PCC Multiverse. Coming up next, our thoughts on Chernobyl, well, at least my thoughts on Chernobyl, and why this is probably the must-see television event of the year. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. All right, and we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. My friend, we're just to let everyone know again, we're available on all those different media, social media outlets, including Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, the whole 9 yards. Just type in Pop Culture Cosmos and you'll get all of our information there. Plus, if you check out our Pop Culture Cosmos Facebook page, you're going to get a listing of all of our radio stations, because we're on radio being played 7 days a week all around the world, plus also many of the over 30 different podcast options as well. My friend, you've got a great thing going on with Humanica Media. So share the goods, my friend. What's going on with Humanica Media?
Topicocalypse is going on. We just put out, I put out the episode about the historical figures. We're kind of slow right now because June's kind of been a busy month for all of us. So there will be more stuff to talk about soon, but just follow us on the Facebook pages and Instagram and all that good stuff to stay up to date.
That's Topicocalypse, and you can find it everywhere you find your podcasts. My friend, before we head on out, I got to tell you, man, I know you've been wanting to see it. You've got to make an effort to go see the series on Chernobyl that was made. Tell you what, the series in its whole, the series as a whole, 5 episodes long, doesn't take that much of your time. It's not something that's 10, 11, 12 episodes long. This is something that's 5 episodes long. It is really worth watching. No, I mean, for me, as I told you before, you really have to get over the fact that these are British actors for the most part that are actually speaking in their own accents, and it's not Russian, but it is portraying the actual events of Chernobyl as best as they can go ahead and portray it.
Wait. So now you're telling me that they're not real Russians?
Yes, for the most part, there were not Russians involved. There were. I'm sure there were some Russians involved as far as the overall making of it, but they were speaking in English, many with English accents. So as you watch it, if you get over that little detail, you can go ahead and really enjoy this, because it is very riveting, and it doesn't pull many punches. And it doesn't pull many punches when it comes to what happened at Chernobyl, the cover up by the government, the intrigue behind the scenes, and the devastation of what it did to an entire country and Eastern Europe as well. So it was really something that was very, very riveting for 5 episodes, and you have to go out of your way to see it, because it's very, very compelling television. Jared Harris, who plays the lead in the series, was extremely effective, and I do think a lot of acclaim and awards are coming his way. Stellan Skarsgård, I've told you before, as the second lead, it did an outstanding job as well. In fact, the whole crew portrayed those very troubling moments in time, and portrayed the Chernobyl disaster as it should. It pulled it didn't pull very many punches at all. It showed pretty much what the devastation was like for something so traumatic and so tragic to an entire community, an entire country for that matter, and the cover-ups behind it by the country to try and put it to rest, to put it out of the limelight as far as possible, and not try to get the word actually out to a world audience. So Chernobyl is compelling television. It is right now one of the best television events of the year. It is the best viewing you can see from HBO in 2019, and that includes Deadwood and that includes Game of Thrones. So right now, if you've not seen it, you need to see it. It is Chernobyl, and right now it is available if you have the HBO streaming service, the HBO Now, and all that. It is something you need to go out of your way for, and that is Chernobyl.
Sorry, I had some Photoshop windows popping up here. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I have plans to watch it. I just, having plans and finding time are two different things for me right now. But I'm fascinated. I've heard great things, and I've actually heard that it's better than it feels like a movie. It feels it's kind of in its own way. It's like a horror film, but I'm hearing really great things, and I can't wait to sit down and watch it. It's only 6 episodes, so it's not like a huge commitment. It's not
5.
5. It's not Game of Thrones by any means. So, yeah, I can't wait.
That is Chernobyl. So check it out today on HBO. I think you'll be very interested. I'm not going to say you'll be glad, because it is some devastating television and the effects that they show of Chernobyl to not only the people that work there, the people that tried to help the disaster, but to the entire community as well. All right, my friend, it's been some great talking. It's been some great conversation that we had on today's show. I just want to go ahead and tell you thank you, man, for stopping on by. And I know you got a big week coming up for E3 this week. You want to give us an insight on what you were looking forward to talking about this week, or looking forward to interviewing, or where you're going to be at as far as some of the presentations that you and Chad and Tony and Jamie are going to be at E3 2019?
So we're scheduled to go play Borderlands 3, which I'm pretty excited about. Now we're gonna talk to a couple of PC game devs, but I want to see what the atmosphere is here this year, especially with Sony leaving and a lot of allegedly big announcements being safe for Gamescom. I'm curious, like, is E3 going to become the next Comic Con? What's going to be how crowded is it going to be this year? I'm not expecting huge things from it. It is fun, and I can't wait to go. But yeah, I mean, my favorite thing to do there is just kind of check out all the new games coming out. There's nothing specific that I'm looking for. I would love to get in and play the Final Fantasy VII remake, but who knows, man? I'm probably just gonna go one day this year, and who knows where that might lead. Will probably be fun, and I can't wait to bring some news back.
Tell those Monroys to bring me and tell those Monroys to bring. Well, where are you going, man? Oh,
Sorry, hold on. I'm trying to pull the hard drive out real quick. Keep talking though.
Well, just tell those Monroys to go ahead and bring me an E3 T-shirt, man. That's all I need. That's all I need. And also as well, I want to let everybody know that this week I'm going to go ahead and put up a Father's Day gift guide from the Pop Culture Cosmos. That's going to be available on popculturecosmos.com. So look for it this week on our website, popculturecosmos.com, and popculturecosmos.wordpress.com as well. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the Pop Culture Cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great